Okay, so I just threw a bunch of risers and lids, and I throw off the hump, and I try to center more clay than I actually need so that I have something left to make a piece of pottery out of. And I thought I would use this opportunity to go over making the neck and how I throw pieces in sections or parts. So first I'm going to kind of go over that technique we talked about for pulling. This is kind of adapted from the Jose method. So I'm going to really undercut this right here. All right, and I like a thumb pull, so I'm really pushing the clay out above the thumb, and then the thumb is pushing the cylinder back in. Oops. Need a little moisture there. But in doing so, you can really get pretty tall. And I'm going to stand this up. So when I get closer to the top, it's almost too much for the cylinder to handle. And just even this out where I stopped. And using this pulling method has really helped me to eliminate a number of pulls. You can see in the top, I had to pull it a couple times, but the base is ready to go. Alright, so this might be a little too much clay. So color this at the top. And I'm going to go back down. There's always clay right here that needs to be pulled up, so just mainly going to even this cylinder out. This, if it's going to fall, this is kind of where I'm going to have problems because I tend to pull too thin. So you're not trying to thin it so much as you're trying to just make the wall a little more even, and you can get a little more height, but primarily the focus should be just making that wall a little more uniform. And I picked a little too much clay. Okay. So now this next step is using this square rib. And this, the whole purpose of this rib is to first remove the extra clay on the side. Jessica was asking how soon do you remove this extra clay on the bottom, and if you remove it too soon, it can make the cylinder too weak. So we just remove it right before we're ready to compress. So I get my hand nice and wet, and I'm just going to compress this wall. You can give it a little shape, but it's primarily a cylinder that I'm going after. My hand on the inside is flat, pushing up against the rib. So you could think of this as a double rib step. So I'm really just, you notice that the rib didn't move. So I'm compressing by pushing the clay up against this square rib. And once I run out of space, I reposition the rib and continue compressing. And when I run out of rib there, I'll remove this stuff here and continue to compress that. Okay, now this wall is about 1/4 of an inch thick, so it's a little bit on the thick side. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start introducing form or shape. And what I like to think of is first sketch the piece out or have it in mind exactly where you're going with this. And this first pass is just to gently push it into that shape. And because I know I have not 1/4 of an inch of clay, I can actually stretch this clay out into the shape. That'll make the wall even thinner. So just a little bit of shape. The other question is, how much clay do we want to reserve for the neck? And I'm going to say right about there will be for the neck. The rest of this is for the body. So one of my favorite shapes right now, thank you Jose, is a really wide bottom belly. So this will be the widest point here, and then it'll gradually come up to the top where I'll create the shoulder and neck. Okay, so phew. I tell people I throw in sections. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to dry this a tiny bit right down here at the base to give it a little strength. I use a hair dryer, and then if I want to speed it up, I'll just add a little flame, but not much. Okay, so this is a nice rigid wooden rib that I use on the inside, push the clay out to shape it. So as I'm pushing it out, the wall is getting thinner and the piece is getting more shapely. And this is what I was trying to encourage Jessica to try. So next week maybe we can do this. So I'll put the rib in with the tiny side down, find the corner of the cylinder, rock the rib out, and then start shaping. So I want a nice wide base, so that's where I'm going to start. So now on the inside, if you look at the inside, it's got a nice clean line, clean shape on the inside, and what it does is it displaces all the thicker portions of the clay to the outside, which will be trimmed away later when it's leather hard. So I'm going to dry that. I'll stabilize that before I start shaping the rest of it. And I'm going to not make it leather hard, but I'm going to just make it dry enough to support the rest of the top. And I'm going to come up to this corner here and take a little bit of a nice moist rib on the inside, or sponge. I'm going to start at that corner and then blend that into the side. That's when I start taking out any of these rings. I want the surface to be nice and smooth so that I can stretch this out and not worry about throwing rings. So I am moving the rib, but what I'm thinking about is I'm pushing the clay up against the rib that I have on the outside. And I have the rib, the shape that I want the outside to be, and just pushing it up against that, repositioning so that it's not moving like this, it's moving like that. Alright, so I want a little more exaggerated corner down here. So we're going to try pushing it out even more. Now all of that irregularity that you see on the outside is all the clay that I'll trim away later. So I don't worry about the outside shape. I worry more about the inside shape because I want that to be the most pristine part of the pot. And then I'll trim the outside to match the inside. So here I am on the outside again, blending this to the side. Okay, so you notice I'm going up only to the part where I've reserved this clay. I want to fine-tune the shape of the body, and then I'll dry that and then move to the shoulder and neck. Alright, so I want to give it a little more volume. So I'm going to take this on the inside and just push it out. Okay. Much better. Just a little bit more shape. Now that I'm fairly happy with this, I'm also going to dry this with the torch. If I had 2 torches, I would just speed it up by putting 1 torch on either side. So one of the things you want to avoid, you don't want to dry it like this. You want to put the torch in one section and count to 10. Move to the next section, count to 10. And keep doing that so that you get more uniform drying. Alright, now the air, I'm going to put the hair dryer up here. This helps with evaporation. Alright, so now I'm going to move to the top, and as I'm throwing this piece, this tends to flare out. So the first thing I need to do is stand this up, and then also fold it in. So when I fold this in, I'm not thinning it, I'm just pushing it. Got my finger wrapped around on the inside, a little bit of moisture there, and I'm just, with my thumb, I'm just pushing this in over my inside finger just to try to get it to flatten out. Once I have that flat, now I can come in under it and do a more traditional collar. Okay, so now I've changed the direction of this. Now I can come down here, and I'm going to work on this transition from the belly to the shoulder. All along what I'm doing is pulling this extra clay up to the top to give me clay for the neck. Just repositioning the clay. Now this would be the shoulder, and I have a throwing stick that I would use normally, where I just tighten this up here. If you look at the side, there's a slight indentation right there. And go inside and push that out. Okay. That's better. And like I said, I dry every step of the way, so now I'm going to dry this, the shoulder. The more I dry this, the more it's going to hold up to all the work I have to do up here without collapsing or moving or bending. Now I'm going to just dampen this and collar this in. Top the top off. Okay, now I've got a lot of clay here, so I can make a really nice tall neck if I want. Pour it in there. So right now I'm going to change my hand position, put my finger on the inside, and I'm just going to push the clay up over my inside finger. So this does two things. I'm making it thinner, and I'm also collaring it to make it narrower. I want to put water on here, put water on the top, and then trace it down. Same technique, I'm just collaring and making it thinner, making the wall thinner. And I keep trimming this off at the top. And turn that off. I usually leave that on so that by the time I get done with the top, the bottom is leather hard and it's ready to trim. I like trimming things right side up so I can really see the overall form. Once you turn it upside down, you lose a little bit of that sense. All right, now here's this idea. When I apply moisture on the top here, I don't want water dripping down. So if you put the moisture on with a brush, it's more likely to stay right in place. All right, now I'm going to collar this. I'm going to squeeze it in. And to get height, then you lift it up. Okay. So I'll clean this up. Form that nice clean line there. And then for me, I like a neck that's cinched at the base and slightly flared. So I'm going to take, I think I can use this. I usually have a skewer, but I'll use this instead. So using the brush to put the slip on. I can use the brush even as a pulling stick. So you'll clear down to the base, and what you're doing is pushing the stick up against the thumb and moving them up together. Okay, so right up to the top, and I want that slightly flared at the top. And now I'm going to put the slip back on. One last collar. I'm going to try to cinch the neck at the base and blend that into the top. So here we go. So cinch it in, supporting this neck with my finger at the top. Just gradually letting it get to the size that the top already is. Okay. And now letting go of the neck is the trick. So it's helpful if you kind of come down to the base or towards the base. All right, so that's it. I'm going to dry this and the entire neck so that as it dries naturally. If I didn't dry it with a torch, the air currents would dry it on one side probably faster than the other, and the neck will tip over when it does that. If I just simply push the neck straight again during the firing, it'll tip back over. So that is how you throw a bottle with a tall, skinny neck.